Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Torah from Braude Shiurim. The Shiur this week will be on Parshas Terumah, and the title of the Shiur is The King's Many Crowns. The Shiur, or the Torah portion of Terumah, is really all about the Mishkan, the sanctuary that the Jews have built in the desert. And the Torah portion of Terumah is aptly named because Terumah means giving. And this is what the Jews did. They donated all these different things to the temple, or to the Mishkan. And so they donated things like tapestries, they donated things like vessels, they focused on all the measurements throughout this Torah portion, how everything, how big everything was, how small it was. This is really in essence what the Torah portion is about. But why is it called Terumah? As I just said, because it's all about giving. The Jews came and they gave from the best of what they had, the best produce or the best vessels, the silver, gold, Nechoshet, the copper, everything they had, they were giving to the temple, giving to this Mishkan in the desert. Really, they're giving it to Hashem. So the question that I want to start off and, lead the Shiur with is, why give? Why did the Jews feel so compelled to give to this Mishkan in the desert? And what I really believe it is that we are tasked with being like Hashem. Countless times throughout the Torah portions, throughout the Torah, it says, "You shall be holy, for I, your God, am holy." You shall be holy, for I am holy. We're told from this that it's a mitzvah that we must try and be like Hashem. We must try and emulate Him, not just His attributes, but also that Hashem is a giver. And it's very easy to understand this concept because, for example, I could give you a little story. Let's say I'm sitting down to eat dinner, and I have before me a beautiful plate of sushi. And I'm so excited, my mouth is salivating, looking at this delicious piece of sushi in front of me. And my wife asks, "Can I have some of your sushi?" It's easy for me to give to her. Why? Because for two reasons. One, I love her, and I want to give her everything I have. So of course I'll give her the best sushi that I have. And two, for me it's endless. Everything I have in life comes from Hashem. He gives me everything, There's nothing that I have that isn't from Him. And so Hashem's hand is not short, so why should I be short with my wife? Hashem gives to me openly and freely, so why would I not give to her openly and freely? And from this little example, we can understand that we are tasked with being like Hashem, and this is one way that we can do that. When I give to others, I'm being like Hashem. We also know that Hashem has entrusted me with everything, as I just said. Everything I own, from the very shoes on my feet, is all from Hashem. But it's not just that He gives to me and that's it. He wants to see that I'm responsible. He wants to know that the person He's giving to can be trusted with what He's giving. So if, for example, Hashem were to give me $10,000, He wants to see, am I going to become greedy and am I going to take it straight to the casino and gamble it away? Or am I going to use it responsibly? Give some to charity, some for my family, some for kids' tuitions, some for myself even. At the end of the day, you also need to provide for yourself. And He wants you to have nice things, a nice Shabbos table, good tefillin, etc., etc. And so we need to know how to use these things responsibly. Because ultimately, everything that we do or we say in the world has an effect. And if we're doing things responsibly the way Hashem wants, then we're going to have a positive effect in the world. There's one of the main laws in physics is that matter is never created nor destroyed. And it doesn't just work with physical matter, but also spiritual matter. Any physical thing I put into the world will go on, eternally. And so we want to put out good energy. We want to do good things. We want to give the same way that Hashem gives. And so, like I said, physical things, when you do them, they bring that energy into the world. And the same goes with all of the mitzvot that we have. So when I daven, I'm putting out tefillah, or when I'm learning Torah and doing all these mitzvot, this is in essence, it's Terumah. It's me giving, positive words into the world. And you can even understand that when I give charity, I've said this before, but it creates Hashem's name in the world. And so when you give the coin, that's the yud of Hashem's name. When I reach out with my hand, the hey, and with my arm, the vav, and then I give it to the other person who comes with their hand, their five, the hey, and then I've just created Hashem's name in the world. Excuse me. Charity, this act of giving, is what creates Hashem's name in the world. But it's not just that. when I do Tehillim or I'm davening, and I'm saying all these words, I'm refining the air with holy words. When I'm learning Torah, I'm refining myself, me as the individual. I'm being refined through the words of the Torah and the ideas that it contains. And when I do mitzvot, the vessels in this world are being refined. My tefillin, my talis, all of these things are also elevating in the world. And when you elevate one thing, everything else goes with it. It's a balancing scale. Ultimately, our job in this world is to bring Hashem into the world. And so when I start doing things that, connect to Hashem, mitzvot literally meaning connection, when I start doing these things, then I'm able to bring Hashem's name into the world, not just through charity, but through all of the mitzvot, all of the tefillah, all of the Torah that I'm learning. And everything that Hashem gives me is only for a test. He wants to see who is going to fulfill my job the best, who's going to bring me into the world. And so He gives us things. He gives us money, He gives us children, He gives us all of these things just to see how are we going to do it. Everything Hashem gives us is just a test. And God's defining act is charity. That's who He is. This is why He created the world. There are many, many opinions as to why God created the world. The one opinion that we're going to focus on is that God wanted to give to another. That He wanted to give to another, and so He had to create us. And we are here to receive. So now God, before the world was created, it's just Him. And as we know, Adon Olam, He is the same before, during, and after creation. But He wanted someone else to give to. And so He created humanity. He created the world. And now He's able to give to us. And there are many other opinions, as I said. And just to cite a few because I find them interesting, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that Hashem created the world to know Him. So we could get to know Hashem. There's also the Alter Rebbe who said that Hashem created the world so that He could have a dwelling place in the lowest world. And there's Rabbi Chaim Vital who said that Hashem created the world in order to display the complete array of His perfection. And what I find incredible is that all of these things really unite in this one umbrella that we're speaking about, which is in order to give. I've read it in Rabbi Ira Kaplan's book, Inner Space, where he also says, Hashem wanted to give. And what's the best thing He could give? Himself. And so this is one, to know Him. It's also to display His perfection. It's also to have a dwelling place here with us. And so it's all of these things in one, is that Hashem is giving Himself so we can connect to Him. And now we understand that by giving, we emulate Hashem, who created us in order to give to another. I can give to my wife, to my children, to everyone around me, if Hashem gives to me. And that's how I emulate Him. It's a beautiful, I think it's called symbiosis or something like that. A beautiful network that we create. In order to know how best to give, though, a person needs to know what the other person's needs are. So let's explore human needs through the eyes of Maslow. Maslow created this hierarchy, and Rav Ginsburg draws a beautiful connection between this week's Torah portion and Maslow's hierarchy. If you know of Maslow's hierarchy, there are 5 different segments in this pyramid, and Rav Ginsburg connects them. He says the first 2 are going to be 1, the second, the middle one is 1, and the top 2 are 1. So he splits it into 3 things, and compares these to the 3 vessels in the Mishkan. And we'll go through line by line just so that we could see how he makes this comparison. In essence, Maslow's hierarchy focuses on the bottom level is physiological needs and safety. Then you get love and belonging. And then you get esteem and self-actualization as the highest rung of a person's needs. And we're going to focus on how to give to people so that you could suit the needs, what they need from you, really. Now, what Rav Ginsburg says is that in the Mishkan and in the temple, there are many vessels. And there are 3 vessels specifically that have this crown around them. Hence the name of this shiur, the King's Many Crowns. The crown is really an edged border that goes all around the altars and the ark. And so the 3 vessels that he speaks about is the ark the two altars. There's one outside, there's one inside, and the ark on the inside that held the 10 Commandments. And we'll go through each one and show how it connects to the different layers or different rungs on Maslow's hierarchy. But I want to connect another thing and juxtapose a Mishnah that we actually learned from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It says that there are 3 crowns. There's the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of kingship. And we're going to bring these in as well. So just to put it all out on the table, we've got 3 vessels in the Mishkan. We've got 3 crowns, Torah, priesthood, and kingship. And we've got 3 layers on Maslow's hierarchy. And we're going to see how they all line up. We're going to begin from the lowest rung. This rung of our physical needs, physiological needs, and safety. Rav Ginsburg says that this is the table of showbread. There was this, I called it altar before, the table of showbread, where we used to go and put these loaves of bread for the Kohanim to come and eat. And this corresponds to our physical needs. This table of showbread was really the king's table, where the king provides for all those around, all of the people in his kingdom. This is what it represents. Around this table of showbread, like I said, was this crown that went around. And so we can understand that this crown that's going around this table of showbread represents the sovereignty, the kingship of the individual, and his responsibility for himself. As we'll see, this is the security that one needs for one's physical needs. It's the lowest level, and it's the side of life, physical sustenance. And so at the lowest level, a person needs to have food, they need to have safety, and a person who is able to provide those things to themselves and to others will merit the crown of kingship, because the king's job, like I said, is to provide for his people. The next level up is the golden altar. The golden altar was a place in the Mishkan where the Kohanim used to go and burn an incense. And it says incredible things about this incense, that it used to spread through the entire Mishkan, and that even in the temple in Jerusalem, the sages say that the fragrance was so strong, it used to spread as far as Jericho. And this could be either a physical description or a symbolic one, maybe even both. But the fragrance represents relationships, which are the fuel of the human spirit. And we know that, the spirit is developed through relationships, particularly familial relationships. Another thing that they said is that the aromas, I think it was more so through the shechtim, but regardless, the aromas that used to spread throughout the Mishkan and the temple would prevent women from having miscarriages. And so we could see this idea of miscarriage, which is the absence of life, was absolved through the smell, this incense or whatever was smelling in the altar, in the Mishkan. The idea of smell was able to go against the decree of death. We even saw it in the desert not too long ago. Aaron HaKohen ran through with his incense in order to prevent the plague of death that was spreading throughout the camp. So incense represents life. And life, we understand, through a relationship. A husband and wife are able to bring life into the world. And so this next altar, the golden altar where the incense was brought, represents this life, the life of relationships. And this is the crown of priesthood, because the priest represents the psychological powers that drive our ability to build healthy relationships. This can also be our self-esteem, the ability to respect others, our inner strength, and our inner freedom. The reason I say that this golden altar, the idea of incense, is connected to the crown of priesthood is because anyone who's learned Kabbalah knows that we have 3 different classes. And I've said this again before. There's the Kohanim, Levim, and Yisraelim, the Israel. And the Kohanim represent Chesed. And it says, again in a Mishnah, that we are prescribed to be like the descendants of Aaron HaKohen, loving peace, pursuing peace, and bringing peace between all of Hashem's creations. Aaron HaKohen was known for trying to bring peace between husband and wife, trying to bring peace between friends. He was the person that was there to make sure that husbands and wives stayed together. It says even that when Aaron HaKohen passed away, the nation mourned for him for a full 30 days. They did the full shlashim for him, which is not the same for Moshe, because Aaron was a man of the people. He was down there with them. He cared about their relationships, and he cared about his relationship with them. This is the crown of priesthood. This is the golden altar that had a crown around it where they used to offer up incense. This is the idea of the life of this golden altar. And this is our self-esteem, how we respect others, how we relate to others and we relate to ourselves. Are we able to raise ourselves up and say, you know what, I can accomplish things in this world, I can bring good, I am a worthwhile piece of space in this world. This is our inner freedom. Finally, we have the ark itself. The ark, which is located in the deepest layer of the Mishkan, the Holy of Holies, represents our ability to seek all that is beyond our physical needs and our physiological needs. One might say that the ark represents the needs of the soul, the need to feel that life has purpose and meaning, that we're here for a purpose. The ark doesn't actually have a functional role per se. It actually just contained the Ten Commandments. It's more like an inspiration to everything that goes on in the tabernacle and outside it, everything that goes on. This also had a laurel, a crown, that captures the crown of Torah. Because like I said, the Torah itself was housed within this ark. And so the crown that went around it represents the crown of Torah in this Mishnah. And in our lives, it can be understood as the need for recreation. The Torah is not just a source of laws that we study and it's got no more relevance. It not only charts how we should live our lives, but it also provides us with guidance and clarity in our lives. At the highest level, the Torah is delight. It's the instrument by which we can take pleasure in our connection to God. And as King David says, if your Torah, God, were not my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. Torah provides us with really a lifeline in this world. It helps us to navigate the treacherous waters that we encounter all the time because we all have ups and downs. So this final location, the ark that was housed in the Holy of Holies of the Mishkan, represents this crown of Torah. And the crown of Torah is what provides us with self-actualization and the ability to reach beyond ourselves, to reach beyond our affliction, to get out of the depths of despair that we might find ourselves in, and to reach for something greater, to connect to Hashem. That's self-actualization. When you realize that I am a part of God literally, and that I can connect to Him through my soul and through the Torah that He's given me. These three crowns correspond to the three crowns around the ark, the golden altar, and the table of showbread. And it's in that order. In the ark, they lay the tablets of the covenant, the Ten Commandments, and the Torah scroll that was written by Moshe. In the golden altar, this is where we have the symbol of priesthood, the burning of the incense. And the table of showbread is the symbol of the king's table, from where sustenance was spread out throughout the entire kingdom, as it is for the king's duty to provide for his people. However, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai adds a fourth crown to all of this. He says that the crown of a good name surpasses all of these things. So now we've just gone through and said how the three crowns, of Torah, priesthood, and kingship relate to the three vessels in the Mishkan, and it relates to the three levels of Maslow's hierarchy. But what about this fourth crown? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is asking. We have this crown of a good name that rises above all the others. And so to this, I want to bring a story. There's an incredible story of who else other than the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, that the Baal Shem Tov was once living in this village. He was known to travel from place to place. And in this village, there was a nobleman and his wife, the queen. And this queen was very, very ill. And so she had for many, many months this doctor that used to come in and see her all the time. And he'd monitor her condition, and it was just never working. She was actually deteriorating, getting worse, and no matter how much the doctor tried all these different tipulim, all these different medications, nothing worked. And so eventually she said, I want to see the Baal Shem Tov. So they called for the Baal Shem Tov, and he showed up, and the doctor was there. The doctor looked at the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, tell me, where did you study? The Baal Shem Tov said, I studied in yeshiva. I learned. that's what I do. He said, okay, and what degree do you have? He said, I don't have any degree. He said, you can't be serious. You're bringing this man over here over me. I've got 3 degrees. I've studied every type of medicine all over the place. I think that I'm a much better doctor than him. I suggest we do a test to see who's the better doctor. The Baal Shem Tov agreed. And so the doctor said to him, this is what we'll do. I'll feel your pulse, and you'll feel my pulse, and we'll each give our, not prescription, but we'll each tell the other what ailments they have and about their health situation. And so the Baal Shem Tov said, no problem. And he reached out his wrist. The doctor felt his pulse. He said, thought for a few moments. He said, okay, I see from your pulse that you're actually quite healthy for your age. You should maybe avoid, so much, sugar. You should maybe eat a bit more, but I could see that you're actually quite healthy. So Baal Shem Tov said, very well. Now the doctor reached out his wrist, and the Baal Shem Tov put his hands on his wrist, thought for a few moments, nodded his head, and then he looked at the queen. He said, I believe that you've had some things missing over the past few months. If you go to this doctor's house, in his bedroom, you'll find his cupboard with all of your belongings hidden in the back there. And the doctor's jaw dropped. His face turned white. Sure enough, the queen and the king sent people to go and search the house, and they found all their belongings that had been taken over the months. The Baal Shem Tov said, this man has not wanted you to get better. He's actually been poisoning you slowly, in order to take more of your things. The doctor was eventually locked up, and that's the end of the story. Why do I bring this story? In order to explain this 4th name, the crown of a good name, besides the Baal Shem Tov being the master of a good name, is that we understand from the Baal Shem Tov and all our holy Kadoshim, all our holy Tzaddikim, that there's something beyond this world. Beyond, the need for sustenance and safety, for self-esteem and actualization, for, I forgot what the other one was even, for love and belonging. Beyond all of these things, we have this good name, this Torah, this thing that is beyond our world, something that helps us to connect to something that we don't quite understand. And that's really something that we're trying to do in this world. We're here to connect to the divine, to redeem true justice, to bring clarity and refine this world and make it a place where Hashem can dwell in peace. And in order to explore this 4th crown in a much deeper way, we have to go into the deeper sources, because this is not something that's so easily understood. It's not like any other study in the world. So you have to go to the deeper sources. For this reason, we go to Kabbalah, specifically the Maharal's Netzivas Olam. And I heard this shiur, or some teachings from Rabbi Akiva Tat to explain this. But I always appreciate these little side notes. The Maharal lived from 1512 to 1609, and he was alive during the times of some of the real greats. For example, Shakespeare, King Henry VIII, and his wife Anne Boleyn, and the daughter Queen Elizabeth I. So the Maharal was really alive during a very special time, and he teaches us many important things about this 4th crown, the idea of Kabbalah. He says that giving away, when we give Terumah, when we give of ourselves, it reminds us not to covet, because everything belongs to Hashem, even the body that we have. My physical body is a separate thing. And yes, I must take care of it. And at times, I have to give Terumah from it. I use my body for mitzvot. I use my body to help people. And this is a way that I use my body to give Terumah, to give to Hashem and to give to others. Now, the Kabbalists teach us that the human being, the human body, is called a small mikdash, which is interesting because the Torah portion itself of Terumah is all about the mikdash, the sanctuary. And so now they're saying that the human being is also called a mikdash. Why do they say that? Because the Kabbalists explain that the whole world, all of creation, was created through one form. This form is called Adam Kadmon, or this primordial man. And the reason it's called this is because creation comes down through this form. It's through this form that man finds representation throughout all of creation. We also know that it is called the 10 Sfirot, which have anthropomorphic equivalents. So when I say man, I don't just mean like men as a masculine aspect. We mean both of these aspects. But the idea of the 10 Sfirot is that they correspond to the two sides of the brain, they correspond to my two arms, my torso, my legs. It's all within this form of a man, of this being. And when I say that we can see this form in creation, there are many examples of it, and you can search this up, ad blidai, no end. But I'll give a few examples that I found very interesting. One of them is carrots. They say, there's always been this, I think it's like more of a fable, but in reality they've proven it to be true, that carrots are good for your eyes. And when you cut one in half, you can see that in fact it's got the structure of an eye. Carrots are known to be filled with vitamins and antioxidants, like beta-carotene, and that decreases the chance of macular degeneration in human beings, which is the leading cause of vision loss in older people. Another example is tomatoes, which if you cut open a tomato, you'll see that it's got these ventricles, very similar to the heart. And it's known that tomatoes are also very good for your heart, because studies have found that because of lysophene in tomatoes, there's a reduced risk of heart disease in men and women who eat them. So make sure to eat tomatoes, they're good for your heart. You won't get heart disease. And it's not just in food, but we see it throughout the cosmos as well. Dark matter, if you look at any depiction of dark matter, you'll see that it has a similar structure to the brain's neural networks. So to speak, it seems to me as though the whole of the cosmos is like one big brain, which I love, because it's like understanding that Hashem, this primordial man, is bigger than we can understand. We're all just in the brain of this cosmic being, which is, truth to it. You also have nebulas. You can have a nebula, I've seen pictures, I'll show a picture, a nebula that looks like the eye. You also have the death of a star, which is very interesting because it looks similar to the birth of a cell in its splitting phase called mitosis. There's also wine, which for anyone who likes wine, red wine, it's known to be good for your blood, because wine is rich in antioxidants and polyphenols, including a powerful one called resveratrol. And this prevents against destructive things in the blood, like LDL cholesterol, which can also cause heart disease. So they always say you can have a glass of wine a day, it's good for your heart. And it's true, it's good for the blood as well, the blood through the heart. Now, all of these examples are great. We could see through nature how man's form takes effect and comes into formation. But it's also in the Beis HaMikdash. It's also created in this form of a man. How so? We have the Holy of Holies, where the Ark was held, the Torah, and this is the head. This is what they call the Seichel, the intellect. This is where the Torah was. The altar is the Torah, which is our whole guidance, our whole Seichel, Hashem's will and wisdom in this world. That's the Holy of Holies, the head. Then you have the altar, which is the heart. And this is where the fire and the blood is. The fire and the blood going up to Hashem. This is where we offer korbanot, offer sacrifices to Hashem. This is the altar. And we also have in this week's Torah portion, we also have that Hashem says we must build him a mikdash, and I will dwell within them. So we can understand that man really is a small mikdash. That when a person sins, God forbid, they make this Beis HaMikdash tainted, and I'm forgetting the word, but they make it impure. They're desecrating the Mishkan when they do a sin. But when they focus on learning Torah and doing mitzvot, they make all the vessels of this Mishkan beautiful and holy. Their body becomes holy and a fit dwelling to house the Shekhinah, to house Hashem. And in this way, we can understand how we can become a Merkava, we can become a fitting vessel for Hashem to work in this world. When I see my body and give it to Hashem, when I see my body as a vessel that He can use in order to make this world a better place. And so now I want to start to conclude that the more you give, the more you get. It's not just that when you give something, you get satisfaction, which is, actually better than giving. It's not just that. Yes, you do get satisfaction. But Hashem wants you to know that He wants to know that He can trust you. that if he gives you $10,000, you won't go gamble it away, that you'll go and give some to charity, that you'll do the right thing. And when you do the right thing, he gives you a raise because he knows you're responsible. At that point, Hashem says you're doing it right. And a great example of this, which was last year when I gave the shiur in the shul, a great example of this is the Argentinian president, who he wasn't elected then, but he became the president. And he started, when the war broke out, all his advocacy for Israel. He was one of the biggest supporters of Israel. And we can see through his example that while all the nations of the world were rushing to US and Qatar in order to petition for a deal to try and get their nationalities hostages back, from Hamas, that he went to the Western Wall. And I've looked up the details because this all happened last year, but it was actually on February 6, 2024, the Argentinian president flew to Israel and went to the Western Wall in order to pray to Hashem, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, that he gets his hostages back. And what do we see? Is that 6 days later, on February 12, 2024, Hashem answered him and two of the Argentinian hostages were freed through the hands of Hashem and the army. They weren't, released through some deal. The IDF went in and found the two Argentinian hostages and brought them back. So we learn a deep lesson from this. All of the nations of the world went to the other kings of the world, Qatar, the US, and the Argentinian president said, forget that, I'm going to the King of all kings. I'm going to Hashem. And he was answered. Why? Because he said, Hashem, I'll give to you. I'll support your people. I will raise up Torah in this world. And he's been on many TV shows talking about the value of Judaism and the value of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and the value of the teachings of Yiddishkeit. He said, Hashem, I'm here to support you. I'm here to raise your name and your glory in this world. Hashem said, in that case, I will give back to you as well. So I think the lesson is simple and deep. When we give, we get. And it's in more ways than just one. It's on our physical, it's on our emotional, it's on the spiritual. It's not just for us, it's for others as well. So Zrat Hashem, we should all merit to continue to give, to merit to give more and more and more. Hashem should bless us all with endless parnasa and shefa. We should merit to give ad blidai. Shavua tov.